Distributed. Today we are going to discuss regarding the DLR application techniques, that is device level ring network application techniques in the Rockwell switches and the devices. So we are going to discuss the part 4. Okay. So if you missed part 1 to 3, okay, please subscribe to our channel. In the channel we have created a playlist in the DLR application techniques in Rockwell switches and the devices. Okay. There will be 6 parts in it. If you missed any part, please listen to it. The session is going to be a useful session. So what are the things that we are going to discuss in the part 4? How a static 5400 switch are configured in the DLR using the different tools as a redundant gateway. How DHCP is configured in the DLR using the different tools. How to configure the VLAN trunking in the static 5400 switches. The same 3 things, that is redundancy gateway. Okay. How we are going to configure 5800 static switch as a ring supervisor, as a ring participant, and how we are going to use them as a redundant gateway using the different tools. How the DHCP DLR is enabled in the 5800. Okay, and also we are going to learn how to configure the VLAN trunking in the static 5800 switches using the different tools. Okay, so in our discussion we might be using this ETABs, we will be using 5400 statics, and we will be using 5800. Okay, so first let us consider an example. So in our previous sessions we have provided pretty clarity about the software that we are going to use. One will be the device manager, it will be work as a web level interface, and the second one will be the logic designer application, and the third will be the command line interface. Okay, now let us consider a simple example. Okay, let us consider statics 5400. Okay, we have 3 different rings in it, that is ring 1, 2 and 3. We are going to assign 3 different VLANs, 10, 20 and 30. The IP addresses will be 10.1, 20.1, 30.1, and one of the ports that we are going to use for VLAN ID 10, it will be 5 and 6. Port number 5 and 6 we will be using for VLAN ID 10, and port number 7 and 8 we will be using for VLAN ID 20, and port number 9 and 10 in this one we will be using at the VLAN ID 30. Okay. Now if you are configuring using the web interface, that is the device manager, try to enable using the basic configuration. Okay. Next, verify that the boundary mode is enabled in it or not. Okay. Next, what you need to do for each ring, enable and configure the primary as well as the backup redundancy gateways. Okay. So when you are enabling the redundancy gateway, select as primary, and what are the switches that you are going to uplink. So 1 and 2 you are going to uplink it. Okay. And which will be the backup? So the 1 and 2 there will be a backup as well. Okay, you need the backup also. So first the switch 1 and 2 where you are going to connect your cable, basic cables. What do you need to do? You need to use them for as a switch for automation. You can enable them as a switch for automation, then proceed to the next. Okay. Next, if you are going to configure using the logic designer application, okay. So using the software, okay, get into the DLR, okay, in the ring 1, enable the redundancy gateway and use the precedence as a primary. As you can see here, the uplink port will be enabled, 1 and 2 will be enabled. Okay. In the same way, if you want to enable the redundancy also, please enable them. Okay. And the first you are making it as a primary, and then the second way also you are creating as a backup as well. Okay. And most important thing in the smart and the VLAN assignment, what you need to do, you need to make them as a switch for automations. Then proceed to the next step. Say for example, the same thing if you are configuring using the CLI language. Okay, first and the foremost thing you need to do is configure the IGMP snooping, okay, and make it the PTP mode boundary. Okay, enable and configure a primary and as well as a backup redundancy. Okay, we are going to use the precedence value for the primary as a 255 and 100 for the other backup gateways. In the ring DLR ring 1, what we are going to do, we are enabling the gateway and we are making the interval as a advertised default and timeout as well, and we are assigning the gateway precedence value as a 255, and we are exiting the DLR ring 1. Next we are going to do the DLR ring 2. In the ring 2, same features we are going to do. Only thing we are assigning as a precedence value as a 100 for the other devices. Here they have provided the 250, but it should be 100 as we told earlier. Okay. So 3 different rings we can create. Okay. Once configuring them, exit from those rings, and if you want to uplink the port 1 and 2, so first configure the uplink ports. How we can configure? Type it as a interface GI 1/1-2. Okay, so DLR ring 1 uplink, ring 2 uplink, DLR ring 3 uplink. Macro play switch setting as automation, maybe VLAN 1 and exit. Okay, so as we told earlier, we can configure the statics 5400 switches, okay, using the 3 different methods. One is device manager, logic designer application, and the CLA language. So as you can see here, we have 6 different devices in it. So this first switch is going to act as a active ring supervisor. Even though we have active supervisor, we need some backup ring supervisor. So the second big switch, we are going to use it as a backup ring supervisor. So what are the 2 ports we are going to connect the entire network? It will be connected to port number 5 and 6. Okay. And also we are enabling the backup DLR DHCP servers as well. Okay. So what are the device index number that we are going to provide for the supervisor? It will be 1, and it will be 2, and this will be 3, and this will be 4, and this will be 5, and this will be 6. Okay. Next, as we told earlier, for the primary mandatory you need to assign the IP addresses. Okay. But for 5 and 6 it's not mandatory. You need to assign the IP address. Even for the second one also, IP is mandatory. Okay. Next, as we told earlier, if you are going to assign using the web interface, first thing is that get into the enable the DHCP and the DHCP snooping. Okay. Assign the VLAN ID as a 10. Okay. And most importantly, assign the IP addresses. Okay. Next, for each and every whenever you are enabling something, you need to make it OK and submit. Okay. Once it is configured in the global setting, you can go and see what you have assigned. Okay. And here also you need to add and delete. If you want to add the VLANs, you can add. You can delete also, you can delete. Next, after configuring the switch as a primary, next thing you need to do is that you need to create the backup DHCP servers as well in the ring 1. So as we told earlier, how many devices are going to be there? There are 6 number of devices are going to be there. Okay. What is the role that it is going to act? It will act as a primary. Okay. And if you are configuring the other switch as a secondary or backup, you can make the role as a backup. Okay. See here, all the other devices will be the same. The number of devices going to get connected will be the 6. For each device ring 1, add the entries to index table. Okay. And assign IP address. Okay, you can assign IP address, that is okay. But index number also you need to provide. For the first device you need to assign device 1, and for the second it should be 2, and for the third one it should be 3. The index number is very important. IP address is very much important. And as we told earlier, after configuring the DLRs, okay, most important thing, enable the DHCP server and DHCP snooping also need to be there. And what is the role it is going to play? If it is the primary, make it primary. If it is a backup, make this role as a backup. Okay. So after assigning, you can see all the configuration things here. You can proceed to the next implementation thing. Okay. As we told earlier, if you're going for the logic designer application, using the logic designer, if you're going to configure DLR DHCP, first thing, enable the DHCP. Inside the configure DLR DHCP settings, okay, you please enable the DHCP and enable the DHCP snooping and create the pool for the ring devices. Okay, after configuring the switch as a primary, okay, most important thing that you need to do for the ring 1 is that add entries to the index table. So you might have a doubt. So this is the index numbers. Here then you need to provide the numbers properly. Okay. For except 2 and 5, no need the IP address assignment. For all the other devices, you need to assign it properly. So as we told earlier, using the CLA language also you can do the same process. As we told earlier, first thing is that you need to exclude the ring devices with the static IP addresses. Okay. So DHCP enabled address will be from 10.0 to 10.99, and the others will be 10.111 to 255. First thing you need to configure the IP address pool. Okay. So first you need to create the pool and create the network as a 10. Okay. And the subnet mask will be 255.250.255. Okay. Next, enable the DHCP snooping. Okay. Assign the VLAN ID as a 10. Okay. Then configure the switch as a primary. So the DLR ring, you are enabling the DHCP, and snooping also you are enabling, and you are also enabling the server as well. Okay. So how many devices that you are going to connect? So the number of devices should be 6. After assigning that, assign the IP addresses to the devices. First one you need to assign as a 100, second you need to assign 101, third it will be 103. Okay, this here entry here refers to the index numbers that we assign. As we told earlier, for 215 no need for assignment of IPs. For the index 3, that is node 3, 4 and 6, we need to assign the IP address in a mandatory. Okay, next exclude those devices. Once after, so all these settings you have made it for primary. Same way you need to make it for secondary, that is the backup as well. First you need to configure those devices, provide them the IP addresses, okay, and create the IP address pools, okay, and for the instance 1, okay, enable the snoopings and assign the VLAN ID. After that, create the backup as well and end the program. Okay, so next thing is that how to create the VLAN trunking, okay, for in the node 9 and 10, especially the DLR ports 9 and 10, how to enable the trunk 30, 31, 32 and 39. Okay, so consider, so you can create this in device manager as well as in the CLA. If you are trying to create in the web interface, you can go with the device manager. So we have 3 different rings, ring 1, 2 and 3. For ring 1, the VLAN IDs will be 10 and 20 and the IP addresses you know, and for the port will be 5 and 6 for the ring 1, 7 and 8 for the ring 2, and for 9 and 10 what you are going to do, you are going to use multiple and native VLANs. Okay, so as you can see here, to configure the ring 1 and 2, follow the steps which we have already discussed. Okay, and now this is the special case scenario where we are using the VLAN 30, we are going to create the VLAN trunks, that is 30, 31, 32 and 999. As you can see here, we are providing the VLAN ID as a 30 and we are providing the DLR name as a 31, okay, and we are providing the IP. So the IP will be different for the all the 3 lanes. In the same way, you can create for 32 also, okay, you can assign the, instead of 31, you can assign the IP as a 32, okay, and the IP address will be 192.162.32.1. The same way if you are creating for 999 also, you can do this with it. Okay, most importantly, you need to make this IP as a static whenever you are creating the VLAN trunks, IP addresses. Okay, after completing all the process, please press OK. That is most important. Okay. And for the ring 3, do the following. Make it as a enable the supervisory mode, enable the DLR on the 2 DLR capable switches and configure one as a primary and the other one as a backup. Okay, after configuring, so as you can see here, port 9 and 10 are configured as a supervisor and the supervisor setting, primary settings also being provided and VLAN ID also need to be assigned here. Okay, next thing for the ring 3, apply the switch for automations because in those 2 we are going to connect our switches. So other equipments, devices will be connected in those devices. So for that, what we are going to do, we are making them the role as a switch for automation. Okay, native VLAN will be 999. Let it be. Okay, if you want to customize, you can customize. Next, configure the VLAN trunking on the DLR enable ports. As we all know it, for 9 and 10 we are going to enable the DLR. VLAN trunking we are going to assign. How are we going to assign? First thing is that in the physical port settings, okay, go to the port number 9, enable them as administrative, okay, and most importantly the administrative mode will going to be the trunk here, okay, and VLAN, what are the VLAN IDs that you are going to use? 30 to 32 and 999 will be the VLAN IDs which is getting assigned to these 2, okay. And next, in the same way for the port 10 also you need to do assign, enable them, assign the VLAN and make the administrative mode as a trunk. And as you can see here, the VLAN ID is 32, 32 and 999. Now after configuring everything, you need to press OK and submit button. Same way using the CLA languages, first we are creating the VLANs, we are naming it and we are providing individual IP addresses for VLAN 30, it will be 30.1, 31 it is 31.1, 32 it will be 32.1 and for the 999 IP address will be the default IP. Okay, once configuring all these basic things, next you need to configure the supervisory settings. So the precedence value going to provide as a 10 in the ring 3 networks. So mode supervisor, default big on interval in the timeout and VLAN ID will be the 30 and precedence value will be the 255. After configuring the VLAN trunking on the line 3 for port 9 and 10, make this important setting the switch for automation settings, okay, and provide the allowed VLANs. So only these VLANs will be allowed in the port number 9 and 10 once everything is configured. Okay. Next, the same methodology, okay, we can use for statics 5800 configurations as well. Okay, so we can create two different rings, and the VLAN ID will be 10 and the 20. As you can see here, for VLAN ID 10 we are using port 5 and 6, and for VLAN ID 20 we are using the port 7 and 8. Okay, so this is simple using the web user interface. First thing you need to enable boundary. Second thing you need to add. In the add, okay, assign the IP address, assign the VLAN, assign the port details. Next, after each and everything in the DLR link, enable the mode as a supervisor, okay, and make the ports. Which ports need to be active for the DLR? Port 5 and 6. After making every changes, always press the submit button as well. Okay, so once these are done, in the smart port roles, what you can do for 5678, you make it as an automatic device. Okay, and see, you have assigned the VLAN ID as well. Once everything is done, most important thing is that DHCP snooping trust need to be enabled. Then you can proceed to the next step. Same method you can assign using the CLA. First, create the VLANs, provide the names. Second thing, assign the IP addresses using the CLA language. Then, if you are making it as a primary, for primary provide 250 as a precedence value, and for the other devices you can provide the precedence value as a 100. For the ring 1, the VLAN ID is 10. And for the ring 2, the VLAN ID is 20, and it can be 100. Okay, and apply the smart port settings for 5 and 6, that is switch for automation. So, multi-port device access VLAN 10. Okay, and DHCP snooping trust need to be enabled. So, if you are making as a ring participant, okay, in this example you can see we are making it as a ring supervisor. Okay. If you are making it as a ring participant, same methodology, only difference that you need to make is very simple. Boundary is going to be the same, and VLAN ID is going to be the same. But here, as you can see here, the node will be normal. If you change this node to supervisor, it will act as a supervisor. But since you want this device to act as a normal ring participant, make it as a simple node, okay, and make this apply to devices. Okay, in the same way, but all other configurations are the same. Only difference that you're going to make is that here instead of in the mode it will be node only. If you are making it as supervisor, then you need to change it. Since here we are making it as a ring participant, this will be node only. Okay, and the same way in the CLA method, create the VLANs, assign the IP addresses, then configure the DLR parameters for ring wise. Okay, then after that you need to apply the smart port settings for port 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. You are providing two different VLANs, and also DHCP snooping trust also you need to enable. Next, if you create the redundancy gateway using 5800, same for port 5, 6, 7, 8. Same example you are going to see. As you can see here, these two are very much important. We are configuring using the graphical user interface, that is web level interface. So the snooping query and snooping should be enabled. Then the mode should be boundary. Okay. For each ring, enable and configure the primary and the backup redundancy gateways. So see here, the redundancy gateway is enabled here, and this is primary and this is backup. Okay. The precedence value we have provided for the primary will be 255, and for the secondary we have provided 100. Okay. And see here, update should be enabled. Okay. As you can see here. So port number, all the port numbers are here. So total 8 available ports are present here. So we are selecting the port 1 and 2. Okay. Next four most important thing is that in the smart port roles, you need to make them as a switch for automation, and for the 5, 6, 7, 8, make them as a multi-port automation devices. Okay, you can proceed to the next step. Same method you can use using the CLA language in the 5800 switches as well. First thing, configure the IGMP snoopings and configure the PTP boundary mode. So in that one, enable and configure the primary as well as the gateways. Precedent value for primary use 255, and for the others use 100. So for the ring, DLR ring 1, enable the gateway, assign the gateway precedence value as 255, and these interval and the timeout will be the default. For the ring 2, enable the gateway, these two interval and timeout will be the same, and precedence value will be 255. And configure the uplink port for each devices. For port 1 and 2, make it as a uplink, and most importantly, this switch automation is very much important. Okay. Now, if you are configuring the DLR DHCP for those devices, consider you have 6 different devices which is connected into it. Okay. For 2 and 5, don't need to apply any sort of IP addresses, but for the others you need to assign. Okay. How you are going to consider this is the ring 1 and this is the ring 2. It will act as a primary, that is supervisor. Once this fails, this will take as a backup supervisor. Okay, and control all the other devices. Assign the node ID as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So as we told earlier, using the graphical user interface, that is web login and go into the general settings. Okay, as we told earlier, this DHCP snooping and the reserve only need to be enabled. These are the IP address that you need to assign for the switches. Next, specify a specific router values. Okay, as we told earlier, go into the app and add the required VLANs, assign the IP addresses to the concerned ports. Okay, once this is done, when you are enabling the DLR DHCP, in the DLR DHCP, enable them and make them as a primary, and after making any how many devices are going to be connected, that also you need to specify, and most importantly, after this changes, please apply to the device. This is very much important. Okay, if you didn't do it, the changes won't get updated in the switches. So whenever you are making any changes, please make it okay or apply to the devices or save. Okay. Next, in the same way, when you are configuring, as you can see here, there is a difference. Here, the role we assigned as a primary. For the second switch, we are configuring it as a backup. That is the biggest difference here. Okay. All the other things are going to be, the number of devices are going to be the 6 for both. Okay. And here the ring enable, server enable and snooping also we have enabled. In both we have enabled. Only difference is that here the role is going to be the backup for the second switch, and for the first switch it is going to be the primary. So after assigning, okay, for each devices, okay, we need to assign the IP addresses as well. As you can see here, the pools are created here. You can proceed for the next step. So this is a simple method how you can configure static 5800 using the CLA language. First, you need to exclude these IP addresses. Okay, create the IP addresses pool in the range of 20.0 and subnet mask will be 255.250.250.0. Okay, and assign the default router. Okay, and provide instance number. For in this instance one, assign the VLAN 20. Okay, and for configuring the primary switches in the DLR ring 2, enable them. Okay, and make it primary. And please mention the total number of devices which are going to be connected. Okay, next thing, for the index number, that is entry number 3, 4 and 6, we are going to assign the IP address using the DLR DHCP tools. Okay, this is the basic configuration for the primary. Okay, these are the step-by-step process you need to follow for the primary. Same thing you need to do for the secondary as well. Only thing, the IP addresses will be different, and most important note here is that here the intended role is primary, but here the intended role will be the backup. Apart from it, all the other things will be the same for both the configurations in this one. So as we told earlier, if you are trying to create the VLAN trunking in the 5800, that you can do for the first device, assign it as a VLAN 10. But for the second, you can create the trunk to 20, 11 and 22 and 999. Here for the VLAN 10, we are going to use port number 5 and 6. For trunking creation, we are going to use port number 7 and 8. So for all the regular methods, use the previous discussion that we have made in this video. Okay. Now we are going to solely discuss regarding how we can create a VLAN trunk. Okay, especially in the port number 7 and 8. So as you can see here in the add device configuration, okay, in the VLAN. So as we told earlier, we need to create 20, 21, 22. That is 20, 21, 22. See here, we had created add, we had assigned different IP addresses, and we had provided the VLAN descriptions also different. Okay, and for the ring 999, it will be made. Next, for the ring 2, first thing we need to do is that enable the supervisory mode and enable the DLR on the DLR capable switch ports. So these are the capable switch ports. Okay, so this is going to be the primary, and we are going to assign the VLAN ID. This is the ring 2. Okay. So configure whether it is a primary or secondary, those things you need to do. After this, for the ring 2, apply the most important thing, change for the switch 7 and 8. Switch for automation need to be done. The role is very much important. If you didn't enable, it won't do that role. Very simple. Okay. And see, the default ID will be 999. For configuring DLR tracking on the DLR enabled switches, what you can do? So consider 7 and 8 DLR already enabled. There you want to do the trunking. So as you can see here, in the switch port mode, it should be trunk if you are creating VLAN trunking. And whenever you are making any sort of basic changes, apply the changes to the devices. Then only it will get configured. So in the same method, if you are creating VLAN trunk using the CLA language, first thing is that create the VLAN, name them. Okay. Next, assign the IP addresses to them. After assigning the IP address, configure the supervisory settings and the precedence value to them for the DLR ring 2. Okay. And same way for the VLAN trunking creation for the concerned ports. Most important thing you need to do is the switch automation. The macro apply switch automation need to be enabled. And in the second way, most important thing that you need to do is you are creating the trunk that need to be allowed. VLAN 20, 21, 22 and 999 will be allowed. This all will be created when you are configuring the VLAN trunking. Okay. And most importantly, DHCP smoothing trust also need to be enabled. Thank you so much. Please subscribe to our channel and please press the bell icon. If you want to know more and learn more, please listen to our videos that we are sharing. If you are a working professional, you want to learn during the 5 days, especially if you are working with GCC countries, we are providing all the basic level courses to work in the BLB industry and also building management system, building automation industry. If you want to get into the BMS system for the buildings and especially for the metro station projects, you can contact us. We have provided our email ID. We have our phone numbers also there. You can contact us through the WhatsApp. Thank you so much. This is a playlist we had already created. The session is not going to end. We have so many playlists inside it. Go and listen one by one. Thank you so much.